Good morning again, folks and family. How y'all doing today? This is Raymond X, the Prophet, coming to you once again from my apartment living room here in sunny Ocala, Florida. Today is Friday. We made it. We all made it. We all made it Friday, September 25th, 2020 at 10:47 a.m. And this is the Word for Day, Part 2 for May 16th, 2020. Once again, the Word for Day, Part 2 for May 16, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started in the Word today with the first journal entry at May 15, 2020 at 10:04 p.m. during worship. This is the message I've received. There are more on our side than there are on their side. There are more on our side than there are on their side. Let's begin in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 16. He answered, "Don't be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." The book of Genesis, chapter 32, verse 1. Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. Exodus, chapter 13, verse 14. Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will work for you today, for you'll never see again the Egyptians whom you've seen today." Okay, we'll go back to 2 Kings, chapter 6, verse 15. When the servant of the man of God had risen early and gone out, behold, an army with horses and chariots were all around the city. His servant said to him, "Alas, my master, what shall we do?" 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 9. For Yahweh's eyes run back and forth throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. You have done foolishness, for from now on you will have wars. 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verses 7 and 8. Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or dismayed because of the king of Syria, nor for all the multitude who is with him, for there is a greater one with us than with him. An arm of flesh is with him, but Yahweh our God is with us to help us and to fight our battles. The people rested themselves on the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. Psalm 3, verse 6. I will not be afraid of tens of thousands of people who have set themselves against me on every side. Psalm 11, verse 1. And Yahweh I take refuge. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? Psalm 46, verses 7 and 11. Yahweh of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Yahweh of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 31. What then shall we say about these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? Okay, folks and family, the next journal entry I have for you, May 15, 2020 at 10:07 p.m. during worship. This is the message I received. A true prayer warrior fights his battles on his knees. A true prayer warrior fights his battles on his knees. Let's start with 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 3 through 5, key verse 3. You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No soldier on duty entangles himself in the affairs of life, but he may please him who enrolled him as a soldier. Also, if anyone competes in athletics, he isn't crowned unless he has competed by the rules. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 1. When you go out to battle against your enemies and see horses, chariots, and a people more numerous than you, you shall not be afraid of them, for Yahweh your God, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, is with you. 2 Samuel chapter 10, verse 12. Be courageous, and let's be strong for our people, and for the cities of our God, and may Yahweh do what seems good to him. Psalm 18, verse 39. For you have armed me with strength to the battle. You have subdued under me those who rose up against me. Psalm 28, verse 7. Yahweh is my strength and my shield. My heart has trusted in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoices. With my song I will thank him. Psalm 34, verses 17 through 20. The righteous cry, and Yahweh hears, and delivers them out of all their troubles. Yahweh is near to those who have a broken heart, and saves those who have a crushed spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but Yahweh delivers them out of them all. He protects all of his bones, not one of them is broken. Psalm 44, verse 5. Through you will you push down our adversaries. Through your name will you tread down those who rise up against us. Psalm 144, verse 1. Blessed be Yahweh, my rock, who trains my hands to war and my fingers to battle. Nahum chapter 2, verse 3. The shield of his mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots flash with steel in the day of its preparation, and the pine spears were brandished. The Gospel of Matthew chapter 26, verses 52 through 54. And Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for all those who take the sword will die by the sword. Or do you think that I couldn't ask my Father, and he would even now send me more than 12 legions of angels? How then would the scriptures be fulfilled that it must be so?" The Gospel of Luke chapter 3, verse 14. Soldiers also asked him, saying, "What about us? What must we do?" He said to them, "Extort from no one by violence, neither accuse anyone wrongfully. Be content with your wages." Romans chapter 13, verse 4. For he is a servant of God to you for good. But if you do that which is evil, be afraid, for he doesn't bear the sword in vain. For he is a servant of God, an avenger for wrath to him who does evil. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 11 through 17. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For our wrestling is not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world's rulers of darkness of this age, and against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having the utility belt of truth buckled around your waist, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having fitted your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace. Above all, taking up the shield of faith, with which you are able to quench all the fiery darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. All right, folks and family, the next journal entry is a bit lengthy, but hang in there. We're getting there. May 15th, 2020 at 10:08 p.m. During worship, this is the message I've received. A day of reckoning. Get ready to meet your Maker. A day of reckoning. Get ready to meet your Maker. Let's begin in Isaiah chapter 2, verse 12. For there will be a day of Yahweh of armies for all that is proud and arrogant, and for all that is lifted up, and it shall be brought low. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 3. What will you do in the day of visitation? And the desolation shall come from afar. To whom will you flee for help? Where will you leave your wealth? Daniel chapter 4, verse 37. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are truth, and his ways justice, and those who walk in pride he is able to abase. Genesis chapter 31, verse 1. Jacob heard Laban's son's words, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's. He has obtained all this wealth from that which was our father's. Exodus chapter 18, verse 11. Now know that Yahweh is greater than all gods, because of the way that they treated people arrogantly. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 4. The rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are just. A God of faithfulness who does no wrong, just and right is he. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 3. Don't keep talking so exceedingly proudly. Don't let arrogance come out of your mouth. For Yahweh is a God of knowledge. By him actions are weighed. 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 28. You will save the afflicted people, but your eyes are on the arrogant, that you may bring them down. Job chapter 24, verse 1. Why aren't times laid up by the Almighty? Why don't those who know him see his days? Job chapter 31, verse 14. What then will I do when God rises up? When he visits, what will I answer him? Job chapter 40, verses 11 and 12. Pour out the fury of your anger. Look at everyone who is proud and bring him low. Look at everyone who is proud and humble him. Crush the wicked in their place. Psalm 33, verses 4 and 5. For Yahweh's word is right. All his work is done in faithfulness. He loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of the loving kindness of Yahweh. Psalm 131, verse 1. Yahweh, my heart isn't arrogant, nor my eyes lofty. Nor do I concern myself with great matters, or things too wonderful for me. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 and 17. There are 6 things which Yahweh hates. Yes, 7 which are an abomination to him. Arrogant eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 5. Everyone who is proud in heart is an abomination to Yahweh. They shall certainly not be unpunished. Isaiah chapter 2, verses 20 and 21. In that day men shall cast away their idols of silver, and their idols of gold, which have been made for themselves to worship, to the moles and to the bats, to go into the caverns of the rocks, and to the clefts of the ragged rocks, from before the terror of Yahweh, and from the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake the earth mightily. Isaiah chapter 5, verses 14, 16, and 26. Therefore Sheol has enlarged its desire, and opened its mouth without measure. And their glory, their multitude, their pomp, and he rejoices among them, descend into it. But Yahweh of armies is exalted in justice, and God, the Holy One, is sanctified in righteousness. He will lift up a banner to the nations from far away, and he will whistle for them from the end of the earth. Behold, they will come speedily and swiftly. Isaiah chapter 13, verses 6 and 9. Wail, for Yahweh's day is at hand, and will come his destruction from the Almighty. Behold, the day of Yahweh comes, cruel with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land desolation, and to destroy its sinners out of it. Isaiah chapter 17, verse 4. It will happen in that day that the glory of Jacob will be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh will become lean. Isaiah chapter 20, verse 6. The inhabitants of this coastland will say in that day, Behold, this is our expectation, where we fled for help to be delivered from the king of Assyria. And we, how will we escape? Isaiah chapter 23, verse 9. Yahweh of armies has planned it, to stain the pride of all glory, to bring into contempt all the honorable of the earth. Isaiah chapter 24, verses 4 and 21. The earth mourns and fades away, the world languishes and fades away, the lofty people of the earth languish. It will happen in that day, Yahweh will punish the army of the high ones on high, and the kings of the earth on the earth. Isaiah chapter 26, verses 14 and 21. The dead shall not live, and the departed spirits shall not rise. Therefore you have visited and destroyed them, and caused all memory of them to perish. For behold, Yahweh comes out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for the iniquity. The earth will also disclose their blood, and will no longer cover her slain. Isaiah chapter 29, verse 6. She will be visited by Yahweh of armies with thunder, with earthquake, with great noise, with whirlwind and storm, and with the flame of a devouring fire. Isaiah chapter 30, verses 1 through 3, 5, 7, 16, 27, and 28. Woe to rebellious children, says Yahweh, who take counsel, but not from me, and who make an alliance, but not with my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, who set out to go out into Egypt without asking for my advice, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and take refuge in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore the strength of Pharaoh will be your shame, and the refuge in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. They shall be ashamed because of a people that can't profit them, that are not a help nor profit, but a shame, and also a reproach. For Egypt helps in vain and to no purpose. Therefore I have called her Rahab, who sits still. But you said, No, for we will flee on horses. Therefore you will flee, and we will ride on the swift. Therefore those who pursue you will be swift. Behold, Yahweh's name comes from far away, burning with his anger, and in his thick rising smoke. His lips are full of indignation. His tongue is as a devouring fire. His breath is an overflowing stream that reaches even to the neck, to sift the nations with the sleeve of destruction. Our bridle that leaves the room will be in the jaws of the peoples. Isaiah chapter 31, verses 1 through 3. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help, and rely on horses, and trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong. But they don't look to the Holy One of Israel, and they don't seek Yahweh. Yet he is also wise and will bring disaster, and will not call back his words, but will rise against the house of the evildoers, and against the help of those who work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men, and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When Yahweh stretches out his hand, both he who helps shall stumble, and he who is helped shall fall, and they all shall be consumed together. Isaiah chapter 33, verse 14. The sinners in Zion are afraid. Trembling has seized the godless ones. Who among us can live with the devouring fire? Who among us can live with the everlasting burning? Isaiah chapter 39, verses 3, 6, and 7. And Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and asked him, "What did these men say? From where did they come to you?" Hezekiah said, "They have come from a country far from me, even from Babylon." Behold, the days are coming when all that is in your house, and which your fathers have stored up until the day, will be carried to Babylon. Nothing will be left. They will take away your sons who will issue from you, whom you shall father, and they will be eunuchs in the king of Babylon's palace. Isaiah chapter 33, verse 14. As soon as in Zion are afraid, trembling has seized the godless ones. Who among us can live with a devouring fire? Who among us can live with everlasting burning? Isaiah chapter 61, verse 2. To proclaim the year of Yahweh's favor, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. Okay, folks and family, the Spotify worship song I have for you is by The Maker and the Instrument, featuring Chris Tomlin, Even So Come. Even So Come by The Maker and the Instrument, featuring Chris Tomlin. And I'll post both these links in the description box below, both the Spotify album link and the YouTube video link. Okay, folks and family, the next journal entry I have for you, May 15, 2020 at 10:10 p.m. This is the message I received. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. You shall do no work on that day, that may be glorified, Lord Jehovah. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. You shall do no work on that day, that I may be glorified, Lord Jehovah. Let's start with Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 10. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. You shall labor 6 days and do all your work. For the seventh is a Sabbath to your Yahweh your God. You shall not do any work in it, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your livestock, nor your stranger who is within your gates. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 12 through 15. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, as Yahweh your God commanded you. You shall labor 6 days and do all your work. For the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yahweh your God, in which you shall not do any work. Neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your livestock, nor your stranger who is with you, who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. You shall remember that you were a servant in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. On the seventh day God finished his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because he rested in it from all his work of creation which he had done. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. He said to Abram, "Know for sure that your offspring will live as foreigners in a land as not theirs, and will serve them. They will afflict them 400 years." Genesis chapter 19, verse 16. But he lingered, and the men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and his 2 daughters' hands, Yahweh being merciful to him, and they took him out and sent him outside the city. Exodus chapter 6, verse 6. Therefore tell the children of Israel, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And I will rid you out of their bondage, and will redeem you with an outstretched arm, and with great judgments. Exodus chapter 16, verses 23 through 30. He said to them, This is which Yahweh has spoken. Tomorrow is a solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to Yahweh. Bake that which you want to bake, and boil that which you want to boil, and all that remains overlay up for yourselves to be kept until morning. They laid it up until the morning, as Moses ordered, and it had become foul, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath to Yahweh. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath. In it there shall be none. On the seventh day some of the people went out to gather, and they found none. Yahweh said to Moses, How long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? Behold, because Yahweh has given you the Sabbath, therefore he gives you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Everyone stay in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Exodus chapter 23, verses 9 through 12. You shall not oppress an alien, for you know the heart of an alien, since you were aliens in the land of Egypt. For 6 years you shall sow your land, and it shall gather in its increase. For the 7th year you shall let it rest, and life follow, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the animal of the field shall eat. In the same way you shall deal with your vineyard and with your olive grove. 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your donkey may have rest, and the son of your servant and the alien may be refreshed. Exodus chapter 31, verses 13 through 15. Speak also to the children of Israel, saying, Most certainly you shall keep my Sabbaths, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahweh who sanctifies you. You shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy to you. Everyone who profanes it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath solemn rest, holy to Yahweh. Whoever does any work on the 7th day shall surely be put to death. Exodus chapter 34, verse 21. 6 days you shall work. On the 7th day you shall rest in plowing time, and in harvest you shall rest. Exodus chapter 35, verses 2 and 3. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be a holy day for you, a Sabbath of solemn rest to Yahweh. Whoever does any work in it shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations on the Sabbath day. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 3. Each one of you shall respect his mother and father. You shall keep my Sabbaths. I am Yahweh your God. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 3. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no kind of work. It is the Sabbath of Yahweh in all your dwellings. Leviticus chapter 25, verses 44 through 46. As for your male and female slaves, whom you may have from the nations that are around you, and from them you may buy male and female slaves. Moreover, of the children of the aliens who live among you, of them you may buy, and of their families who are with you, which you have conceived in your land, and they will be your property. You may make them an inheritance for your children after you, to hold for possession. Of them you may take your slaves forever. But over your brothers, the children of Israel, you shall not rule over one over another with harshness. Leviticus chapter 26, verse 2. You shall keep my Sabbaths and have reverence for my sanctuary. I am Yahweh. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 34 through 37. But has God tried to go and take a nation for himself from among another nation, by trials, by signs, by wonders, by war, by mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? It was shown to you that you might know that Yahweh is God. There is no one else besides him. Out of heaven he made you to hear his voice, that he might instruct you. On earth he made you to see his great fire, and you heard his words at the middle of the fire. Because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their offspring after them, and brought you out with his presence with his great power out of Egypt. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 6. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 15. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verses 11 and 12. You shall rejoice before Yahweh your God, you, your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, the Levite who is within your gates, the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow who is among you, in the place where Yahweh your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. You shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt. You shall observe and do these statutes. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 14 through 22. You shall not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brothers or one of the foreigners who are in your land within your gates. In his day you shall give him his wages. Neither shall the sun go down on it, for he is poor and sets his heart on it, lest he cry against you to Yahweh, and it be sin to you. The father shall not put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. You shall not deprive the foreigner or the fatherless of justice, nor take a widow's clothing in pledge. But you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and Yahweh your God redeemed you there. Therefore I command you to do this thing. When you reap your harvest in your field, and haven't forgotten a sheaf in the field, you shall not go to get it. You shall not go again to get it. It shall be for the foreigner, for the fatherless, and for the widow. That Yahweh your God may bless you in all your work of your hands. When you beat your olive tree, you shall not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the foreigner, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When you harvest your vineyard, you shall not glean it after yourselves. It shall be for the foreigner, for the fatherless, and for the widow. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore I command you to do this thing. Numbers, chapter 15, verses 32 through 36. While the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses and Aaron, and to all the congregation. They put him in custody because it had not been declared what shall be done to him. Yahweh said to Moses, this man shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp. All the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him to death with stones, as Yahweh commanded Moses. Nehemiah chapter 5, verse 5. Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brothers, our children as their children. Behold, we bring our sons and our daughters into bondage to be servants, and some of our daughters have been brought into bondage. It is also not in our power to help it, because other men have our fields and our vineyards. Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 14. I made known to them your holy Sabbath, and commanded them in commandments, statutes, and a law by Moses your servant. Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 15, 16, and 21. In those days I saw some men treading wine presses on the Sabbath of Judah, bringing in sheaves and loading donkeys with wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day which they sold food. Some men of Tyre also lived in there, who brought in fish, all kinds of wares, and sold on the Sabbath to the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I testified against them and said to them, why do you stay around the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time on, they didn't come on the Sabbath. Psalm 116, verse 16. Yahweh, truly am I your servant. I am your servant, the son of your servant girl. You have freed me from my chains. Psalm 136, verse 12. With a strong hand and with outstretched arm, his loving kindness endures forever. Isaiah chapter 56, verses 2 and 6. Blessed is the man who does this, and the Son of Man who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath without profaning it, and keeps his hand from doing any evil. Also the foreigners who join themselves to Yahweh, to serve him, and to love Yahweh's name, to be his servants, everyone who keeps the Sabbath from profaning it, and holds fast my covenant. Isaiah chapter 58, verse 13. If you turn away from your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath delight, and the holy of Yahweh honorable, and honor it, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words. Isaiah chapter 63, verse 9. In all their affliction he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved him. In his love and his pity redeemed them. He bore them and carried them all the days of old. He bore them and carried them all the days of old. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verses 22 and 24. Don't carry a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day. Don't do any work, but make the Sabbath day holy as I commanded your fathers. It will happen, if you diligently listen to me, says Yahweh, to bring in no burden to the gates of the city on the Sabbath day, but to make the Sabbath day holy, to do no work therein. Okay, folks and family, the final journal entry I have for you. May 15, 2020, 10:15 p.m. This is the Father speaking to me and to everybody. For in 6 days I made the heavens and earth, and when my work was completed, I rested and sanctified that day and hallowed it. The Father. For in 6 days I made the heavens and the earth, and when my work was completed, I rested and sanctified that day and hallowed it. The Father. Let's begin with Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. On the seventh day God finished his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because he rested it from all his work of creation which he had done. Exodus chapter 8, verse 22. I will set apart in that day the land of Goshen, or Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there. To the end you may know that I am Yahweh on the earth. Exodus chapter 9, verse 29. Moses said to him, as soon as I have gone out of the city, I will spread out my hands to Yahweh. The thunder shall cease, and there will not be any more hail, that you may know that the earth is Yahweh's. Exodus chapter 31, verse 17. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 15. You shall remember that you were a servant in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Psalm 95, verses 4 through 7. In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The heights of the mountains are also his. The sea is his, and he made it. His hands form the dry land. O come, let's worship and bow down. Let's kneel before Yahweh our Maker. For he is our God. We are the people of his pasture, and the sheep in his care. Today, would that you would hear his voice. The book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 10. Sing to Yahweh a new song, and his praise from the end of the earth. You who go down to the sea and all that is therein, the islands and their inhabitants. Isaiah chapter 48, verse 13. Yes, my hand has laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand has spread out the heavens. When I call to them, they stand up together. The book of the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 4, verse 24. When they heard it, they lifted up their voice to God with one accord, and said, O Lord, you are God, who made the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. Acts chapter 14, verse 15. Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men of the same nature as you, and bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to the living God, who made the sky, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 4. For he has said this somewhere about the seventh day. God rested on the seventh day from all his works. Finally, Revelation chapter 10, verse 6. And swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and earth, and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that are in it, the earth and the things that are in it, and the sea and the things that are in it, that there will be no longer be delay. Okay, folks and family, the final Spotify worship song I have for you today is by City Point Live, Into the Deep, the live version. City Point Live with Into the Deep, a live version, and I'll post both these links in the description box below, the Spotify album link and the YouTube video link. Honor the Sabbath, which is tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. Alright, folks and family, that's the Word for the Day Part 2 for May 16, 2020. Once again, the Word for the Day Part 2. May 16, 2020. This is Raymond X, the Prophet, coming to you from sunny Ocala, Florida, in my apartment living room. Today is Friday, September 25th, 2020, 11:46 a.m. God bless you all as you go about your weekend today. God loves you, and so do I very much. Take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. Remember, Jesus Christ is coming very soon. Sooner than you think. This is the day of your salvation, your day to repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. This is your decision day, the day to redeem yourself. Once again, Jesus Christ is coming very soon. Very, very soon. Worship God in spirit and truth. Read your Bibles every day, 2 chapters every day is plenty. Pray without ceasing. Take communion every night or every day. Bread and cup, if you want to save yourselves. Okay, folks and family, that's all I have for you today. Have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next video upload, Lord willing. I love you all very much. Remember, Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Get ready. Bye-bye for now.